one of my biggest criticisms on YouTube is the fact that a lot of people always say, hey, Rob, you think you're right about everything. And yes, actually, I do. I think I'm right about a lot of things. And a lot of people are like, Rob, you make excuses to try to prove your point. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, have no one ever been in a debate club? Like, lawyers, debaters, politicians, that's what they do. They debate and they feel like they're right and they make points to try to prove that they're right. But I'll tell you one thing, guys, I have never been happier to be wrong. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I am wrong. I was wrong big time because I thought The Lion King was going to beat Sonic 3. And guess what, guys? That didn't happen. No, 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 guys. Shadow came out and ninja kicked Mufasa, the false king, and I have never been happier to be wrong. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I admit I was wrong, and I've never been happier. I honestly thought Mufasa, because of how much money the first movie made, that we would get a blowout between these two films. Because if you look at The Lion King that came out in 2019, it made almost $2 billion, right? It made 1.6 billion at the box office. So any betting man, if you were at Vegas and you're like, who's going to win? Sonic 3, the third installment of the Sonic franchise, or a prequel to a movie that made $1 billion. I mean, any smart, logical person would do the same thing that I did and be like, look, there's no way Sonic the Hedgehog is going to compete with Disney in the machine and the powerhouse that is The Lion King. And I was completely wrong. It was just a weird concept because Sonic never even it never even sniffed $1 billion. It never even came close to $1 billion. They all have been successful. They all been critically and financially successful, but the Sonic movies never even came close to $1 billion. So when the chips were on the table, I'm just like, sure, The Lion King hit almost $2 billion. It's obvious that movie was going to do very, very well. Well, I was wrong, ladies and gentlemen, like I stated, because Sonic, it came out and ninja kicked. Like I said, ninja kicked Mufasa, the prequel to The Lion King. As you can see here, Sonic the Hedgehog came out with a whopping 62 million on its opening weekend, where Mufasa, the false king, ladies and gentlemen, only brought in 35 million. Sonic actually almost did double of what Mufasa, the false king, ladies and gentlemen, that Mufasa has did. I mean, Wicked, Moana, like these movies are still doing very, very good. So the real question is, why the downfall? Why did Mufasa underperform so much compared to its counterpart with The Lion King coming in at $1.6 billion? What was the problem? I have my theory. This is just a theory, but this is what happens when you bastardize source material. And I think fans are just over it. Now, I didn't go see The Lion King, but I did see Sonic 3. And I had a fun time with Sonic 3. I do have my issues with the movie, but for the most part, I enjoyed my time with Sonic 3. I thought it was a fine film, and I just love that franchise. So I'm actually happy that it beat the false king, Mufasa. But why the downfall for Mufasa? Because even if, because a lot of people looking back now, we look at the Lion King movie and we're like, oh, that wasn't really a good movie. And I did not like the Lion King. I didn't like the idea of going this ultra realistic and these animals just not having facial expressions and all that. Wasn't a fan of the Lion King remake. I much prefer the animated feature. But let's say 50% of the audience did not like the Lion King. Well, why such a big drop off? If it's only 50%, you would still think that this movie would have made a lot more than what it did. The Lion King debuted at almost $200 million on opening weekend. So let's say 50% of the audience did not like that movie, and they said, hey, you know what? We're not coming back for The False King. We're not going to come back for the prequel, the sequel, whatever you're going to do. We're not coming back. Well, if 50% of the people said, hey, we didn't like this movie, and if you look at the Rotten Tomato meter, more than 50% people like the movie, so that math doesn't even add up anyway. Then this movie was still open to 100 million, but the movie only opened to 32 million, 35 million, sorry. So that was a huge drop off. So why such a huge drop off? Because I don't want to hear the excuse, because some people I know said, well, it's because the Lion King wasn't good. The Lion King made 1.6 million or 1.6 billion dollars. So that's a lot of money for a movie that is not good. Even if I don't like the movie and a lot of other people don't like the movie and we don't go see the movie, that's not going to be such a huge drop off. Like that was almost an 80% drop off from opening day of Lion King to Mufasa, and Disney was marketing the hell out of this movie. So the fact that the Lion King has no effect on whether or not this movie is good or bad, because even if a percentage drops off, it was still mathematically do better than what it did, which was 35 million. So here's my thoughts on it. I think people saw the trailer for Mufasa and it turned them off. Disney does this thing where they try to go out and prove that no matter where you come from, what your upbringing is, whether you're orphan, you're a minority, whether you are part of the LGBT community, whether you're fat and bald like me, you can be something great in your life. And that's a great message, right? That's a wonderful message. Like I remember growing up in school, people said you can be whatever you want to be when you grow up. I wanted to be a lawyer. My teacher said, no, you're too stupid to be a lawyer. So that was back when, teachers, they were real with you. But no, they didn't tell me I was stupid. They just said my grades weren't good enough because I drew in class all day. But nonetheless, your parents and the teachers always said you could be whatever you want to be when you grow up. It's a great message to have, to let a kid know no matter where you grew up, whether you're an orphan, you're adopted, whatever, man, gender, doesn't matter. You can be whatever you want to be. But where Disney fails with this message is they take already establishing IP and they try to cram that message down your throat. In terms of Mufasa, I remember going to see a movie and they played the trailer for the first time, and I was shocked, ladies and gentlemen, shocked at the trailer that they were going with the story of Scar is an actual highborn, but he meets this orphan and saves him, and Scar really kind of like, hey, he's part of our family now, and they kind of adopt him, and then somewhere down the line, Mufasa becomes king and takes Scar's place. I was shocked I saw this trailer in theaters. The fact that they changed the source material, because we don't know what the whole source material is, but when we see the Lion King, Mufasa's king, Simba is next in line because that's his offspring. That is the next heir to the throne, and Scar was the uncle that got passed up from his heritage, his crown, because Mufasa was already king. So once Simba was born, Scar couldn't be king if anything happened to Mufasa. So that's what we know about the original source material from the animated and remake. So when they decided that, hey, we're going to go ahead and do a prequel, and in the trailer show you that not only did the Scar get screwed over from his crown, but Mufasa wasn't even a highborn. He wasn't even a part. They're not even blood brothers. So Disney does this thing where you don't have to be blood to be family. Doesn't matter where you come from to be successful in life. And all that is fantastic and great messaging. I think that's something that kids need to hear. But the problem is you ruin previous source material to send this message. If you want to have this message, that's fine. Make a new IP, make a new movie, do what. This is the problem with Disney. If they take already establishing IP, whether it be Star Wars, Marvel, any of these Disney properties, and they change the source material so they can add new narratives to these movies. Like, we did not need to know that Mufasa was adopted, that he was a false king, right? Now that kind of makes Mufasa, the character, look bad, and everybody's like, Scar kind of had the right to throw him off that mountain. He was a false king, took everything away from Scar. It's kind of a bad message. And I don't know how they play it out in the movie, because I refuse to watch this movie. But if they do this thing in the movie and they actually explain why Mufasa ends up becoming the king, it's whatever. But it kind of makes me think back to the G.I. Joe, the G.I. Joe movie Snake Eyes, where Snake Eyes is kind of the douchebag through the whole movie, and Storm Shadow is the good guy doing the right thing through the entire movie. And then at the end of the movie, they just kind of flip it and they're like, "Oh yeah, Storm Shadow, because you did that one thing, yeah, you're like, you can't, you gotta leave. You can't be a part of this anymore. Like, we're casting you aside. You're excommunicado. You're gone. Bye bye. Oh, Snake Eyes, I know you did just as many bad things, but we like you, and you need to be a good guy. So we're just gonna turn the plot around. It doesn't make any sense." Right? It failed for the Snake Eyes movie, how you have Storm Shadow get completely screwed over. Then you look at this movie and it's like, well, I kind of side with Scar. Like, Scar was going to be king. This is his kingdom. He saves this little crap face Mufasa, and then out of nowhere, he just takes his crown. Disney needs to stop doing these sort of things. They kind of did it with Rey, where anybody can be a Jedi. Doesn't matter where you come from. And then, of course, we know J.J. Abrams came in and kind of messed that up and just made her a Palpatine. But the story, the elements of where you came from doesn't matter. That's a great thing to teach kids. Do it with new IP, though. Like, do it with a new, like, come up with your own IP of the same story. Just don't take Lion King and say, hey, I want to change this so we can make, like, kids realize that they can be, and you just mess with the source material for no reason at all, just to mess with the source material. And I think, at least for me, that trailer really turned me off, and I was like, I'm just not going to watch this movie. Like, I just refuse to watch this movie. I'm not going to watch this movie. I side with Scar. At least just have a new movie, a new IP with that. Where Sonic, like I said, is the third installment. Each one of these movies were successful. It was doing better. And I honestly thought, like I said earlier, that Mufasa was going to destroy it. And when it didn't, I was like, oh, well, maybe more people feel like I do. So hopefully Disney learns a lesson from this and are like, hey, maybe we need to stop. Stick to the source material. If you want to add layers, but don't change the fundamental purpose of these characters to try to fit some kind of new narrative. Just make new IP. Just make new IP if you want to. No one's telling you not to tell these stories, but just tell these stories with characters that aren't already established and their lore is already known for a lot of people, because that's a massive turnoff. And now I think Disney is kind of like noticing, like, hey, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have done that. So anyway, this is a much longer video rant than I thought it was going to be. I do apologize for that, but it's just my thoughts on it, because I have a lot to say about it, because it's crazy how much Disney can just not see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like their hubris is so high that they can't see the own bullcrap that they're shoveling. And it's just simple thing of just staying true to the characters can go a long way. If this was a prequel and you actually stayed true to everything and done something great with these characters, then it could have been a very successful movie. But you had to discredit everything by just changing the fundamental beliefs of these characters and where these characters came from. So anyway, just my thoughts on it, guys. I do apologize for the long video, but hopefully you guys stuck around to the end. If you did, I appreciate you guys watching. If you can smash that like button in the underneath there, just smash that. That would help me out a lot. I would appreciate you. YouTube loves the algorithm. The more likes you hit, the more people watch this video. And I like discussing movies and stuff with you guys. So if you guys can do that, I would appreciate it. If I do not see you, I wish you all Merry Christmas. Stay safe out there. It's crazy. And happy holidays to everybody. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, as always, I am Robert Storms, and that's my opinion. Jingle bells.